Welcome on the Crochet Podcast, the podcast to learn everything about your favorite crochet artist. You are joining us for the very first episode, so the sound may not be perfect, it may be some echo, but my first guest is definitely perfect. You probably know her under the name Curious Papaya. She's been my friend for a while and always been a source of inspiration for me. Let me introduce you guys to Amy. Hi, Amy. Thank you so much for accepting to be my first guest on the Crochet Podcast. It means so much for me. How are you doing today?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored that you thought of inviting me to be your very first guest. I feel like that the stakes are high. We got to make you look amazing, not that you already aren't.
Oh, thank you. It will be amazing thanks to you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I was texting you all this time, like, okay, I'm on my way home. This morning was like chaos because both of our kids are officially starting like daycare or like their school, which means I'm like, this is like kind of like day one of being truly full time. Because I would say like I'm doing crochet designing, but even though I'm staying at home, it's like my full-time job was, stay-at-home mom. It's actually it's a lot more work than a lot of people may think, right?
That's why I'm having this podcast, just to show the real life.
Yeah, truly. And so like I'm on cloud nine right now. Like I know both of my kids are having so much fun being socialized and like, getting enrichment that is hard for me to give just myself. Because they're getting at the age where they're just so incredibly active.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I feel great. I am officially writing on full-time crochet designing as of today. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's official. Full time.
Mm-hmm.
So we will talk about that later, how you manage, like to do everything. But first, everybody knows you as Curious Papaya, but I want to know who is Amy. So can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Amy. I am the designer behind Curious Papaya, and I was an elementary educator as well as a designer. That role has now shifted. Right now, like I said, I'm only doing designing. I've always really enjoyed creating anything. Like I was doing like wheel pottery throwing and stuff for a long time. And then, I loved painting like really seriously. Like it wasn't just like, like make
you
whatever, which is
go seriously.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I would get like really hyper obsessed with like a new craft. I think it's because I like to like challenge myself and like see I can't get away from creating, that is something that like makes me feel alive and I feel fulfilled through like making art in that way. And like but yeah, and I'm located in the Bay Area, California, so that's most people recognize like San Jose or San Francisco, so like those are the places that I say if they don't know Bay Area. So yeah, I'm there.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And I know you told in your story once that you started as a do-it-yourself content blog. You started your blog like that.
Ooh.
When was it? When was that? When did you start?
I don't know if I did a DIY blog, though I did create like some other craft blogs like for punch needling and also like making pom-pom crafts with clover needle crafts. Yeah, and those were like projects that we collaborated in. But in terms of like DIY stuff, a lot of it was like informal, just like when I feel like creating something, I would share about it because like to my surprise, people would be like, oh, how'd you do all these questions? And so happy to share. Like I said earlier, like I was a teacher. So I just love to share the
Yes,
Yeah.
I can really see that you were a teacher when I look at your content because you explain everything so well, and everything
Oh,
is so in detail. So I can totally see that, and I was always curious about your background. So
yeah.
I'm just not surprised, about that. And
Oh, thank you.
and why did you decide to stop teaching and create your, like Curious Papaya?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I mean, I never thought I was going to get away from teaching. I fully went into it wholeheartedly, like thinking I would teach for the rest of my life. And it's not off the table, but like as of this current life stage with a 3-year old and a
Mm,
1-year old,
yes.
um, for me, I was like running so thin on everything.
Yes.
And I realized like, teaching like is a profession that requires you to be like fully present. You're talking all day, you're
Yes.
engaging with people all day. Your social meter like really has to be there,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love it. I don't see myself fully being done with teaching just yet. Like I'll be teaching in some shape or form. I love working with kids especially. Um, but yeah, I think it was the right call for me to
Yeah.
put our family first. And at the time, too, my son was a lot more like accident prone, like as I kind of shared a little bit. So when I make the move to like going back to the classroom, it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't working out. He was like not doing okay. He couldn't adjust without me.
Yeah.
And so, uh, yeah, I just realized like first and second kid, like they're very different from each other. And my son in particular just needed me more. So,
Yes,
yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
So you just decided to go full time,
Yeah.
crochet full time?
Yeah. And also to stay home with him a little longer. And like at the time, I was very, how do you say, doubtful of myself if this
Yeah.
was the right call, because this was also meaning that we were going to be on a single income, like minus,
Yes.
my crochet income. But it was the right decision, and I'm
Yes.
so grateful for all of the
Okay.
affirmation and support from other people who are in my position. Um, who are just reminding me like it's 100% worth it.
Yes.
It might be hard, but like they grow so fast, and this is like
Yes.
when they need you the most, right? Or they never stop needing you, but yeah.
Yes, I totally understand how much like you want to
Yeah.
prioritize your family because I did start my crochet business in order to be home one day, the day I have kids. So I can totally understand your decision,
Wow.
but I understand how much it can be stressful of a decision too, and you don't know if you are making the right decision until it works.
Mhm.
So can you tell me like if today crochet is bringing you revenue and how long did it take for you to bring some revenue?
Yeah, the juicy stuff for
Yes.
sure.
Everybody wants to know that and nobody ever asks. So I was like, okay, I'm
Right.
just gonna ask
All
you.
right. For sure. Yeah. I'm happy to talk shop. Like when I first started crocheting, I didn't have thoughts about monetizing it. It was really
Yeah.
for fun. And then, like many other people, it started off with like friends and family being interested in commissioning you. And
Yes.
that really helped start me off. But of course, I realized like I can only handle so many commissions because I think my heart was in designing what makes me happy, and also
Yes.
like something I want to have full creative freedom over. And so I began like designing and putting out free patterns just to like learn from the process and also gain like trust from followers in the
Mm-hmm.
quality of my work and content. And then I released my first couple of patterns like in 2020, I think.
Okay. So
Yeah,
3 years
and
ago.
no, I'm sorry. No, 2019. Oh my goodness.
Oh
Yeah, because I
wow.
started
It
in
goes fast.
2018. Yeah, it's crazy to think. Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I remember thinking, all right, I've been talking about this like little ghost pattern that I just came out with all week, and like, you know, people keep on saying how cute it is, how much they like it. So I was expecting like, you know, at least for a couple of sales, and then it
Yes.
didn't come.
Yeah.
And I was like so anxious. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go on a walk. You know, I remember having my phone in my hand, waiting for like the Etsy sound to pop
Etsy,
up,
yeah.
and it didn't. You know, and I think that was like a good lesson, because nobody is there to coach you in these things, right?
No.
And just because like you have lots of fans and admirers of your work, I mean, doesn't mean that that'll convert to sales. A lot of
Yes.
them don't even crochet, so why would they buy a pattern, right? Um, yeah, and then so slowly as I began to build more like credibility as a designer, like yes, you will find like high quality content, and the patterns have reproducibility, which is like it'll look similar to what you created, which is what people want, right? They don't want something
Yes.
that's like not matching the
Off.
photos, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, as I added more of those designs to my shop, that's when like little sales came in here and there. And I remember the feeling of just like, wow, you know, the first sale being made. And I did lower my prices in the beginning to give people more of a chance to
Yes.
like try me out and not have that fear of like, well, I don't know if I want to spend, you know, this much on a mediocre pattern, right? If there are zero sales in the shop and whatnot. So yeah, it took time in that way, but also with uh, experience, you know, your designs improve. And I remember hosting free crochet alongs was a huge part of like helping my brand become more reputable.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so I think that same year of when I started designing, I was creating a Christmas crochet along, and this was like right
Okay.
around the pandemic. So 2020, there was like a huge toilet paper shortage. I'm not sure if you were
Yeah, no, it
here
was the
at that
same in
time, right?
France. It was the same
Okay,
also.
yeah. I remember you saying you moved, yeah, sometime after that point.
Yeah, but it was the
And
same
so,
issue.
wow, it was worldwide. Everyone was so like terrified they were crapping themselves or something.
I'm sure some
The
people are
hoarding
still
mentality.
using the one they bought during COVID.
Yeah, right. And yeah, I think like as like a way to cope with that humor, I like created a toilet paper like roll, you know, like ornaments thing.
You
And
have
I
to
didn't
send
think
me a
much of
picture.
it. Yeah, I absolutely will. I think that crochet along though was like my very first time doing what I love, which is like hosting events, bringing people together. And I had a
Okay.
small audience. I had maybe like just 1,000 or smaller, you know,
Yes.
where it's it might not be as easy to be seen is all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I listened to my gut, because originally my crochet along design was a little snow bear, like a bear that looks like a snowman kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I listened to the reactions people were having to seeing both of the products, and a lot of them seemed to just need that comedic relief in some ways,
Yes, it really
you
did,
know,
I
and
think.
like an easy project that also, yeah, just brought out some laughs as a way of coping with how chaotic everything was during that time.
Yes.
Yeah, and then so that also helped boost a lot of sales, because a lot of people were finding me through Etsy's SEO when my shop was
Oh,
brand
yes.
new. Yeah, and I
Okay.
think at the time too, like that platform, I have to thank it a lot. Even though people always criticize like Etsy for its fees and everything,
Mm-hmm.
um, their SEO is still what brings in majority of my
Yes.
sales, even
Yeah, it's
over
pretty
my
good.
personal website.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one thing that people don't understand. You know, having your own website, like paying for the hosting, your
Yes.
domain, all of your security, all of your ad blockers, and a bunch of like add-ons and stuff like that, it adds up. So it's not
Yes.
necessarily cheaper, but it
And the
is.
management also of the website.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. The
I wanted to
marketing,
ask you
everything.
about that too because
Mhm.
I know you've been talking about it too.
Right. It definitely segues into like, is it worth having your own website versus starting off on Etsy, right? But
Mm-mm.
I guess basically that's a little bit of my journey. It's kind of all over the place, but I really just went with the flow. At the same time,
Yes.
also being very passionate and ambitious about my goals.
Yeah.
Um, but at the heart of it all, it was the love for creating and the love for bringing people together that
Yes.
drove it. So yeah, that crochet along was free, like I said, but because I was being found on Etsy, um, actually I listed it for like really cheap, like I think like
Okay.
50 cents or 30 cents, something where it was like after all the fees it evened out. But it was still like, oh, people see a pattern for 30 cents and there's no hesitation. They're like, sure, I'll give it
Yeah.
a try.
Mm-mm.
And then that helps like bring up sales on my shop as well. I don't like recommend like this is the way to do it, but like I said, I was just
No.
like, I had no experience and I was just like, oh well, this is working.
Yes, it's a good way
So
to bring customers.
for sure. And I do remember during that time, coupled with paying Etsy $1 a day for ads because they kept driving it on your
Yes.
dashboard, it was
Yeah.
bringing in like 30 to 35 sales a day, which is,
Yes.
it helped a lot in the early days. Like, I don't make
Yeah.
that many sales like today, but my prices are like more fair today to me.
Are you still
hmm
using ads on Etsy?
No, I actually I'm on and off. Like there are
Yes.
seasons where I'm like, okay, sure. Like, but every single time I've jumped with making an investment, it could feel scary because the patterns are only a few dollars itself, and
Yeah.
ads may feel like a lot that you're investing in, but I think it's highly, highly worth it if it's done in the right
Yes.
way, run right time. So
Yes.
that's something to consider.
Yeah, you are 100% right about that, and also about the timing. Like,
Yeah, for
like
sure.
if you focus on a period like Christmas or stuff like that, I know it works very well.
Yeah, definitely, because people are looking for all of the holiday patterns, and it's just a way to make your brand like put out there and to be known.
Yes. So it's been a process, you will say, of like two years before, like, having some result in terms of profit.
I would say ever since I started designing,
Yeah,
excuse me, sorry.
it's okay.
I think I was like putting out maybe 20 to 30 patterns a year. Some of them
Z-
simpler, some of them more complex.
oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and then so because of that, I think I'm trying to think back right now. Like the first year, it was nice, like pocket change. I think
Yes.
from collaborations and commissions and whatnot, maybe 1,000 or so, right? The second year I
Yes.
did it, okay, it's like becoming more substantial after working with brands and also making more like segue with my like shop and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It increased to like 5,000, and then last year it increased to I think almost around 30,000. So
Okay.
it's
Well, that's
been
very
like,
good.
yeah, I'm talking numbers here, and I don't have like the stats in front of me, but it really does. It was becoming a way where I could like sustain
Yes.
ourselves and like being single income, because now it's like a partial
Yeah.
secondary income for this area at least. Yeah.
I think that's good. And I always say, no matter what, we talk about crochet. So I'm always surprised about the numbers, when I see sales on Etsy
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, I made that out of crochet, and
Yeah.
it's
It is
always
really nice.
great.
Once like your design is finished and it's up there, it's like kind of passive income. Like
Yes.
I was able to go on a trip, for instance, and not really be manning my shop, but then it was still bringing in income, and that's
Yes.
what was really nice
That's
about
the
it.
best thing. That's the best thing about online business. I think you can, I was sick last week. I had COVID, and just to see, you still do sales and stuff. It's like, oh, I built everything for this reason.
Yeah, that's really smart, investing in your future
Yeah.
and stuff, because I know you were mentioning you want to start a family and all that.
Yes, that
Yeah.
was my goal for sure. Like I
Oh,
used to work in retail, so for me,
uh,
my goal was to have something at home.
wow. How are you feeling, by the way? I mean, you
Oh,
look totally great. I wouldn't have
I
guessed that you're still recovering.
thank you. I put some makeup on. I survived, I will say,
Yeah.
but
It's
I'm
like
okay.
it's the fatigue, at least from when I'm
Yes.
thinking to when our family had it all.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
very tiring, I will say, but I feel better. Thank you so much.
Oh, good.
And
I'm glad.
talking about family, I know you put out a lot of content all the time, on Instagram you are very active, and on TikTok also you are very active. How do you manage, but now you have your kids at school, but before that,
Mhm.
how did you manage to have your kids at home and still like
Ooh.
film reels? Because I want to know the
Yeah.
secret.
So there are days where creativity just strikes and you
Yes.
have a small window of time and you film while you're distracting them with something. Coco Melon,
Yes.
Miss Rachel, they've got my back, right? And
Okay,
then a lot
okay.
of the times you'll see that my recordings have a voiceover over it. And so it,
Yes.
it could be chaotic and everything, but then I work on the recordings at night when everybody is down.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
and
the secret. Okay.
that's one thing. There are days where I just can't sprint through this race, and I do a lot of recording at night or like when the kids are at nap time, but also my husband is really gracious and very supportive and helpful, and there are times where I'll be like, please, could you take the kids out, play with them outside in the backyard so I can do this recording? And I'll be like so like stressed because I'll have been interrupted maybe 20
Yes.
times
Mm.
within the last like hour and a half, and I'm trying something, and it's not always smooth. I don't have a perfect formula. Working full time while watching kids,
Mm.
imagine doing that like when you're in a business meeting, or you're trying to
Yes.
calculate numbers or stuff like that. So yeah, most times like they play really well together and also like on their own, and of course they come first. Um,
Yes.
but when they are like really cooperative, then I'm just like, okay, I can hash it out, because I never
That's
know
good.
when like my time is up.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, working really late at night though. Like I said, like up until midnight or 1 a.m. is the secret. Also, why I'm also like sleep deprived.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. But now
Yeah,
they will be at school. You will have more time for yourself.
I'm looking forward to it. That's our goal, that I can work more actively like during the work
Yes.
hours, and then like be fully there and present by the time they come home and not have
Yes.
to do both. So,
It seems like the
yeah.
perfect life almost.
Gosh, we'll see. We'll see. With two accident-prone kids, like it's never that smooth sailing. We'll see.
Yes, I understand. It's never like a perfect line.
Yes, I'm grateful though. Like this is the silver lining of like what we've been waiting for them to
Yeah.
be in like a place where they're happy and healthy, and get the socialization like I mentioned, and also
Mm-hmm.
for me to be able to manage my time better, and also like invest more in me, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
put on my makeup and go out to a crochet or a cafe to crochet for a change, or just something where it's like I feel more human again rather than
Yes.
a zombie.
Or
Like,
a
yeah.
robot. Yeah.
Yeah, truly.
Yeah, I understand. I'm very admirative of you for that, because sometimes I'm already overwhelmed with things that's happening in my life. So
Uh,
I'm very admirative of you. I realized that I forgot to ask you, why did you choose the name Curious Papaya?
So I've shared this part before in like a different podcast, so I'll try to add in like different facts, so it's a little different. Well, at the time, I was posting all of my creations on my personal Instagram, and then friends were like encouraging me to like, actually you should create an art account. Like I think you could really do well in it. And I was like, oh, I don't want the commitment of like maintaining it, but okay, sure. So originally it was like Ami by Amy, like Ami by Amy, a very common thing for like the craft by the name. But then I wanted to post other things that I was making, so not just crochet content. However, I quickly learned like how niche-based Instagram likes to be, and so I think it just benefited me to just keep it as one thing that I made. So I was posting pictures of like my pottery and stuff like that, just things I was like dabbling in. I like was working at a studio here in San Jose called Higher Fire. And anything where it's like you're taking your hands and you're molding things, like it's like kind of like sculpting yarn in a way. So there's some similarities there, tactile. But yeah, once I started making amigurumi, because I was posting pottery too, that was when I decided on changing the name. But eventually I reverted back to just posting amigurumi is what I should say. Yeah, and Curious Papaya came from the ideology of like, I want a name that is easy to remember. Nothing against anyone who prefers to have, numbers or underscores or like periods in their names and stuff like that. But in the end, like, what is the easiest for people to type in and remember, right? Think about like brand image and everything too. A lot of times having an effective logo is something that people can easily reproduce. If you were to hand them a pencil and ask them to redraw your logo, is it something that they recognize, right? And it's with the brand. So Curious, like I came up with like two lists, one with all these adjectives and then another one with all these nouns. And I was trying to like combine things that actually made made me feel inspired. And also I wanted to like, capture the childlike joy, I could say, childlike curiosity even to how things work. I was very like rambunctious and very curious as a child about how anything and everything worked. I was always like touching things, running up and down like the aisles, and like glass would just fall off and I'd be like, oh no. I was that kid in the store.
I see.
Yeah, so very curious because I needed to see how everything worked,
Yeah.
And I was like, I had all these kinds of adjectives. So like, I even originally wanted to be like Hello Mellow or something. Hello Mellow. And then someone was like, that sounds like a fruit juice company. And I was like, oh, okay.
So it was really a process of looking for your name.
Something that was easy to remember and something that rolls off the tongue, and like papaya was just like a funky fruit that I remember such a clear memory of with my dad when it was like my first time seeing it. And he was like, Amy, come here and like try this, and I was like, what is this? It looks like rabbit poop in there. And, I was like 7 at the time or something. But then I ended up really liking it. And it's like one of my favorite foods today.
Yes, I was about to ask that. Like, is it your favorite fruit?
Yeah. And I think like it's because of that memory of like being hesitant about something, but giving it a try anyway.
Oh, I love that.
That was like a big thing about creating and posting my art. So like it sounds like really, really deep, but really it was trial and error and also what's available on the handles on Instagram. Yeah. And so I'm happy it turned out this way because I can't imagine my brand being anything else.
Yeah, it's just you. I love that. Thank you so much because I was always wondering. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
They're like, what is this? Why is your name, like, what is this?
No, I think it's super fun and it's you, so it's perfect.
Yeah, I started off like with like not having a logo for maybe the first couple of years of the page. It was just a photo of like my recent creation. That was my profile picture. And then I made my first logo with like, you know, playful, bubbly text using Canva. And then eventually, like, I was thinking, you know, when you think of like blue bottle coffee, I'm not sure if you guys.
Yes, in San Francisco, they are everywhere.
Sure, you know, and Target or McDonald's or whatever. These brands where you know that they don't even have to have their name on the outside of the building. They have their logo and you know what store it is. Slowly, like, I was like, you know, Gertrude was a part of another crochet along event that I co-hosted with some friends, and that was like really what helped create my brand image to what it is today. It was accidental almost, like finding out that like this spunky, cute little angry chick was gonna be like what the face of Kier's Papaya would be.
I love it. It's so. Every time you show up in my feed, I know it's you. Because it's so yellow.
And it's funny because, like, I really only wear dark colors in person. Like, I'm trying to change that. This is actually the sweater that you made me.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for wearing it.
I love it. I get questions about it all the time. So
Thank you.
It's nice to be able to brag about, you know, oh, I have a friend who makes them. You should check it out.
Thank you for the free advertising.
Of course.
Well, thank you so much for answering this question because I'm sure our listener will be very into that.
Of course.
What would you say is the worst part of your job?
So totally being real here, I know myself and I'm very, I can be very like ambitious and, you know, be like, I'm not going to let other people's comments get to me. But of course, I'm very sensitive to that as well. And it's been a great learning lesson. And also it's helped grow my character too. Because there are days where like, oh man, one little comment or like someone who's unhappy about a pattern can get to me and it could really like tear me down.
It's very hard.
But I've been like trying my best to live by this saying of like, if you're not willing to take advice from this said person, then don't take their critique. And it's like so true. Yeah, like I realized I grew up in like facing a lot of criticism from like figures that were supposed to make me feel safe and loved. And that's kind of like a little bit about like, you know, family life and stuff. And I've learned to love them like my family members the way they are, or like other figures in authority that I looked up to. But I think that is why I realized, oh, I'm a lot more sensitive to critique than like.
And it takes you back to it when.
I think it is kind of like a trigger of like that way of reminding me of the times where I felt small or helpless. And in some ways, like the resilience and like the ambition are, they were birthed out of that because I was like, you know, in a way I have to overcome that. And so, yeah, it's like still a daily reminder though to myself that like you're always going to have people who are unhappy, but they're unhappy about everything. They're unhappy about having to wait a couple minutes for their coffee, you know, and the meanest comments, I guess, which are funny to me now are like, they always tend to come from people who have to start off the beginning of their messages with, I have crocheted for so and so many years, and your pattern, blah, 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 doesn't make sense or something, right? But it's more comical now where it's like this person in the UK was like threatening me. They were like, okay, it's been 3 days and I have not received my package, you know, and it was actually the toilet
they ordered
paper
the pattern?
It was, what was that?
Did they order a pattern?
So it was the toilet paper crochet pattern. That they bought thinking was a package. And Etsy is notorious for having like these kinds of issues, right? Because people don't read or, anyway. It was back when I had it listed for 30 cents as well. They were thinking they would receive a handmade ornament shipped to them to the UK. Obviously, it's a misunderstanding, but like I had faced so many of those issues at that point. I was like, I'm sorry, I have to adhere to Etsy's shop policy that I set up, that if it's a digital download, and for that matter, if it has been downloaded, like I cannot refund this. And it's 30 cents. Like it would cost me more to refund it because of all the processing fees on top of that.
Yes, 20 cents, by the way, every time we do a refund.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, every single time we do a refund, there's a little chunk that we lose. Yeah. So that's the one downside.
So that's how you answer. You just like answer with the policy of your shop.
I did, and most times people are understanding, or like, I see that it's like a first-time buyer, and I'm like, I'm gonna pick and choose my battles, and it was an honest mistake, and they're being really understanding and apologetic, and I'm willing to work with them on most days.
It always depends of how they come to you. Sometimes I want to help them so bad just because they're kind.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny how, some people really think that being more aggressive, or if they start insulting you, that they will get their way by bullying you into it. But the mean message was just like, how dare you? Who do you think you are? It was like very character based. And I'm like, we don't even know each other, but okay. Yeah. And they were like, I'm going to call, in all caps lock, I'm going to call the American police on you. And then I remember still trying to maintain myself, but I was like, ma'am, as a one-time courtesy, I would like to grant your, cancellation request. However, please note that the American police will not do anything.
Okay, well, thank you for this insight, like that it can help us, how to deal with it.
Maintaining professionalism is very important, because in the end, it only hurts yourself if you're going to snap at someone, or, and I mean, if you do decide to stand up for yourself and you give them the sass that they are handing to you back, I'm all for it. I'm like, okay, you do you. But in the end, there's a lot of times where you have to be stronger, and the way you do that is making sure that you are feeling full, this, our imaginary bucket, right? That bucket is full, you are pouring into yourself, self-care, self-love, taking care of your mental health, everything, so that you can handle these situations instead of responding back when you are feeling empty, and where you just snap back with an attitude. Or
just take some time. I think sometimes you read the comments, and I just take some time.
I still get nervous about reading reviews that are left, because granted, most people are very amazing and supportive, and if they have feedback on something that can be improved, I'm like, yes, share it, please. Yes. But it's also I always make sure I'm in a really good place before I read it, because it makes such a world of a difference in terms of how I walk away from reading them. Yeah.
And also it's important to say that 99% are positive. So it's crazy that 1% can sometimes mess with your head.
Right. It's almost as if we are looking for that one negative comment to affirm our biggest fears about something we put out. And it says a lot about how I look at everyday life, if that's how I operate with running this small business, facing those reviews. So it's a good reminder, in and outside of the business world, of am I looking for that one person to tell me I'm everything that I fear, or am I going to continue to find my worth and support and confidence in when I received my credit card disputes? That was one of the hardest things at first.
About your website, right?
Yeah. So another positive thing about Etsy or selling on another third-party site is if somebody files a chargeback on their credit card, or they filed for fraud saying they never got the pattern or whatever, those
Okay.
websites will stand up for you. Whereas if it's your own website, you have to go through the whole process of sending in, your proof of reaching out to the customers and proof that your product did get delivered and downloaded or stuff like that.
Does it happen to you a lot?
It surprisingly has happened, like knock on wood, that it doesn't happen right after I talk about this, but it's happened at least 4 or 5 times now to me.
That's crazy.
It's like some people are just like, I've never heard of them, but then some of the people who filed like fraud against me after purchasing a pattern, I saw that they were like following me on every social media channel, and I like tried to reach out to them and be like, oh, I'm sorry, was there a mistake? All of that. Whenever they do file like those like chargebacks, you actually get charged a fee for that though, as like the seller. Okay. It's something like $30 or something.
What?
So it's really annoying.
For a $6 like pattern?
And even like back then too, my patterns were not even that much. It was like half of that, $3.
Okay.
So
plus the time you have to deal with that. That's cool. I never know it could be something. So thank you for letting us know.
I know the first couple of times it happened, like talking to other small business friends was like so helpful, and that's why I'm so grateful to have relationships with people through Instagram, because I learned a lot about how like people who create stickers, pins, all of that, they face way more chargebacks than we ever do. And like it's harder because like they're sending out physical products, and so people will buy a bunch of products and then cancel. So, I guess it's just like it's very informative to know that this is not something like new, and like just to know how to better handle it.
That's good to know, definitely. So after talking about like all the crochet business and everything, what will be one advice you will give to someone who is listening, who wants to start their business, what would you say outside of good luck?
I think finding your brand image is very essential. If somebody looks at a picture of your creation without your watermark or anything, can they tell that you are the designer? And sometimes we make things that are like popular and are trendy, and so they look alike, right? But what is your unique touch that makes your work known? Like
it takes time.
Like for instance, Granny's Crochet Hook is like an account that I really admire. Like nobody else can replicate those kinds of designs, right? Okay. I know for sure. Like this is the designer.
But you too. We can really tell on your page. We know it's you.
Oh gosh! Oh, thank you. I change up, my facial expressions time to time, so I'm never sure if this is something that will like be received well. But that means a lot because that's always something I'm second guessing.
I know it's very hard because I'm still struggling with that. So that will be your advice?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I have a lot of things I would love to share, but that would be the biggest one, like thinking of how you can be you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. What is a thing we can wish you for the future, for the future of your brand?
Wish me luck, and hopefully I would love to work on like a crochet book one day, designing and crochet design book. I really hope that I can find the right partnership, and also
I'm sure it will happen.
Oh gosh, you would, I hope so.
I totally see you doing that.
I've gotten several rejections. So, there's that. And also like...
But you always talk like that, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And when one door closes, another opens. And so that's what I am patiently awaiting and also actively working towards.
And sometimes it really helps to be rejected because it, as you say, it takes you to the next thing.
I really do think it's essential. Like everyone who's aspiring for greatness in any way has to experience that at least a few
I
times.
mean, to be honest, it's gonna happen. Like a lot. Can you, before we leave, can you tell me about your hot dog?
He is a pattern I haven't finished writing yet.
I love it.
But he is my little no-so hamburgers friend. So yeah, I've been excited to put this out, and I realized with my jumbo like food patterns, the ones that are more catered towards like my Asian American heritage, like they are like fun to look at and they're fun to make for me, but like typically things like the hot dog or donut that are more like worldwide known worldwide, they do a lot better in terms of sales.
I love it. When will it be released?
TBD. Hopefully by the end of next month. I have to put it out for testing soon.
If we follow you on Instagram, we can see all of that, right? Okay. So I will put all your links in the description. So please make sure to follow Curious Papaya. And thank you so much for being my first guest. I hope it went well. I hope, people are gonna like it.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I realized I was like nervous talking, so I apologize in advance. Thank you for bearing with us and sticking around to join our little chat.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching or listening the Crochet Podcast. This was the first episode, so I had some technical issues I will get solved in the next episode. Every 2 weeks I will have a new guest, so don't forget to subscribe, and I see you very soon. Bye-bye.